Well, we're on air with Fiona Williams this morning, and you're talking about community sales of plants, aren't you?
Well, look, I thought it was a good idea to talk about, because to be honest, I was doing a bit of weeding in the garden the other day, and I pulled up this poor little dead plant. And, you know, you have dead plants and that's what happens. But I'm holding it in front of me. It's a nice little native. It's about 40 centimetres high and it's grown really well. But the roots are jammed into a little synthetic net that's about 2 centimetres wide and about 3.5 centimetres long. And the roots haven't gone out of that at all. So no wonder the poor little thing never managed to grow.
Yes, definitely.
And you get plants like this that have been grown in a commercial little propagating tube. But to be honest, if you want to get really nice plants, come to some of the community plant sales, because we'll grow them they're grown by people who love the plants, and you won't find them in a little synthetic grow tube.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to talk about how they go?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, look, as you know, I'm a member of the Sow and Grow Garden Club, and we hold our annual plant sale in October at the Arthur Street Garden Walk. And there's lots of community groups who've got different community plant sales around at the moment. But the really thing is that you'll get all sorts of interesting plants. So if you're organising it or if you're attending a plant sale, I just thought if you knew what happened behind the scenes that gets to this stage, it might be a bit of interest to people. So the things to think about, I think the first thing is to get plants that will really grow well locally in the area. So where we are, up northeast of Melbourne, we need to get plants that will cope with fairly dry conditions, and also plants that will grow in our clay soils, because we don't have nice sandy soils, and we've usually got very little soil in many of our gardens, so we need things that are reasonably tough. So certainly at the plant sales in this sort of area, that's what you'll tend to find. And then you need to think about what sort of plants will look good at the time of the plant sale. Because, so ours is in October, so that's spring, which means there's no point us as a community group growing, say, some of the daffodils or the bulbs that are looking beautiful at the moment, because by the time October rolls along, the flowers will have died down, the plants will look miserable and no one will buy them. And in the same way, a lot of things like chrysanthemums, they'll look lovely in autumn, but they won't look much good in October. So we don't do that. We choose plants that really look nice, ideally flower, but you can't always have everything, but nice plants that people will want to sell. So we sell a lot of salvias, because they always look good, native daisies, native peas, because they're always interesting, and then you've got things like the heirloom tomatoes and chilies and things that are just coming on, and people will buy in October. So maybe the choice of plants is something that, you know, you have to put a bit of thought into, but it can really pay off when you've got a good community plant sale. And then the next thing is you want things that are a bit unusual, because, you know, you've got the big hardware stores, and they've got lots of plants, obviously, and they sell them very cheap and they look dramatic. But we want things that people can't buy at those sort of things. So as a couple of examples, we're growing Montanoa, or it's a Mexican tree daisy, which is a large shrub, grows to about 3 metres. It's covered in white flowers in autumn, and then followed by, as the white daisy dies down, it'll form sort of fluffy green heads of flowers that last for ages. So that's spectacular. And we've also got things like mountain pepper. and that's a native shrub that's been used for thousands of years. But we grew that, it's propagated well, so that's again another thing you'll find, the sort of thing you can find at some of the plant sales.
And these are sort of plants that actually will grow locally. And a lot of the plants, even though they can be beautiful in the nurseries, actually are not ideal for this area. And
Exactly.
And you don't know that when you're purchasing. You think this is a really gorgeous flower, and you go for it, and next thing you know, it's dead. Yes.
You've got plants that might be looking spectacular if you're trying to grow them in Queensland, or buy them not so much.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think the thing is, if you're talking to the people who are selling on these community stalls, they tend to be the people who've actually grown the plants.
Yeah.
They'll often have them in the gardens, and so they know what they look like. And they say, well, it might say if you look up Google, it'll say it'll grow to 5 metres. But in northeast Melbourne, we'll say it'll usually grow to 3 metres, but give it a good prune back after flowering. So you get that sort of local knowledge that you don't necessarily get in some of the other conditions.
Right. Well, in other words, it's better. It's good. I'm just saying it's better because I guess nurseries have their positives too, but definitely there are some great strengths with buying from a community store.
Well, it's also a good community activity. So what we tend to do is we have a couple of workshops, one in March and one in May,
Right.
and all the members come together and actually propagate the plants. So we'll take cuttings of things and plant, and everybody does that as a group. We'll put in the seed, we'll divide up the plants. So you've got a community activity to try and grow the plants, which means you learn about them.
Yeah.
So we tend to, each year we think, well, what's a group of plants that we might know a lot about? And that's not what we grow exclusively, but we'll have a bit of a focus in it.
Yeah.
So one year we did salvias. Next year we did a whole lot of the species pelargoniums. And this year we're doing a whole lot of daisies, sort of native and non-native, just so that the group that are growing the plants get exposed to a few different things and get to learn about different plants and what's easy and what isn't.
That sounds like a good idea. And if you if you moved into the area or just started growing a garden, maybe it's a way of learning very quickly. Just ask an expert.
I think so. Well, not that we're experts, but we are experienced. We've done it a lot, and we know what works, and we're always sort of learning. So, for instance, these Montanoas, I just started growing them a couple of years ago. I couldn't believe how impressive they were. And I've got a couple in the garden, I've got in the shade, and one in a dry spot. So you sort of get to know what works and what doesn't. And so a good plant will it round, and if it works, you'll get lots of people taking cuttings, and all of a sudden you've got a much broader group who are growing the plant, which also means if you lose it, you've got it growing in their garden and you can get another one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's have a short break and we'll be back soon.
Okay.
88.6 Plenty Valley FM.
Kevin Hines Grow delivers gardening and nature-based programs to people of all ages and abilities. We are currently offering occupational therapy, counselling and social gardening sessions online. We also have a fantastic selection of plants, tomato seedlings and summer veggies available. Telephone 9848 3695 or visit us online at kevinhinesgrow.org.au.
With a great mix of music, community service announcements, local news and feature segments, keeping it live and local. From 2 p.m. for afternoons on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. Well,
we're back on air with Fiona Williams. She's been talking about community community gardens and selling and buying plants in your local community rather than from normal retail shops, and how that's better. I wanted to know, I guess, if you're buying plants now and you're planting them, how do you get them ready for the summer coming up, which will be very dry as always, and so that they don't turn up their toes during that very dry period?
Yeah, look, I think my view is the first year plants need a bit of extra attention. So if I'm putting them in the garden, I'll prepare the soil as well as I can. Sometimes for delicate plants, I'll use some of the water crystals because that'll give them a hand for the first year. Mulch them from a good start. And I certainly wouldn't plant this coming year in my own garden. I'm planning to finish my planting by the end of October. I won't plant
anything past that.
On that.
Yeah.
It'll be such a tough season. But a bit of care at the start so they grow roots as well as you possibly can, and just sort of baby them a bit as far as for the first couple of months.
Mm. I also found sea salt helped them support them through the summer months.
Yes.
Anything that can, and I've heard that fertiliser can support them too. Obviously, that helps with frost as well, doesn't it?
It's just a bit careful fertiliser, because what we're probably not going to want is masses and masses of soft green leaves, because then you'll lose water through the leaves and the plant will just look wonderful for the first month, but then if it gets tough conditions, it might keel over.
Yeah, right.
So, sea salt, things that promote root growth, but not too much of the fertilisers that create too much leaf material.
I see. Okay.
I think the other things I just wanted to talk about with the community garden is just what not to grow. And the crucial thing is not to grow weeds.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful. Things like agapanthus or freesias or ivy, there's lots of plants that look lovely but grow well but will take over our bushland.
Yeah.
So if you're having a plant sale, you can't really, ethically, you can't sell the sort of plants that are going to take off and create weed problems.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to really emphasise that, because it's hard, because we've had conditions and people will bring along a couple of plants to sale and they'll look lovely, but you think, oh dear, if we sell this, it's just going to cause more problems.
Yeah.
So you have to be a bit tough occasionally about what you sell.
Well, the Nillabin Council actually has a book out about environmental weeds.
They do.
Yeah.
They do, and it's excellent. But even so, people know about it, but they think, oh, that's my lovely plant, that'll be fine. In fact, I spent yesterday up on the cliff just above our house removing freesias.
Yeah.
Realised they'd spread up so far. I had a few at the base of the cliff, and I thought, oh, they'll be fine. And then to my astonishment, they'd sort of jumped up a cliff of solid rock about 10 feet high and were seeding on the top. And I thought, oh, God, these all have to go. So they've gone.
Yes, well, we found that in our nature strips 2 years ago or 3 years ago appeared a whole lot of bulbs. And when we looked into it, we realised there were some South African thing, but there were masses of them really taking over.
It's hard because the South African plants grow so well here, and things like some of the ixias are wonderful and in the right spot look great, but there's just a couple of the species that'll seed too easily, and you take your eye off them and there they are.
Exactly, yes. I wonder if agapanthus is South African. We've got your gazanias, they're South African, your cooch and your kikuyu and Tacoma. Oh, God.
I know. You look at them and you think they look spectacular, but no, we can't grow them.
Exactly, yeah. So we have to be aware of that as a community. What is an environmental weed? You can look it up on the net. They'll tell you, or Nuremberg has a booklet.
Yep.
So,
or if you're at one of these plant sales, have a chat to people.
Yes.
Because, again, the gardeners in the area do tend to know what are the really big problems and warn you against them. So you look at agapanthus, they've bred some modern varieties that are sterile, and they're fine because they don't seed. But it's just the plants that will seed, or some of the bulbs, that are really tricky.
Yeah. And once you get any weeds in your garden, it's really difficult to get them out. We had sour grass for a long while there.
Yes.
Though we won with that, we just kept, every time it came up, it said on the net, don't disturb the bulbs. The more you disturb the soil, the more it'll grow. So we just pulled off the top part, the green, and stopped it from flowering. And it hasn't come back this year, and last year, just vanished.
Well, I've been trying to do that with onion weed.
Oh, yeah.
But in the end, we've just we're down there hand weeding individual bulbs to get them out, which is a sort of just work from the edges and work in.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the day when I can look down in that area and not see the flowers.
Yeah. Onion weed's not local, not Indigenous. It's
no.
Right.
No. Some people eat it, but I just not have it at all.
Yeah, that's probably the most sensible thing, yeah.
I think the only other thing I was going to say is the numbers of plants you can grow for the plant sales, because we grew some everlasting daisy seeds and we must have ended up with several thousand of them. So we've just been choosing the best ones to pot on. But that doesn't always work, because last year we had bulbine bulbosus, which are the little indigenous yellow lily flower type flowers, and we sold I think well over 100, and they went like hotcakes. So you never know what'll go fast, but
yes,
really well.
Definitely, everlasting daisies are beautiful.
They are beautiful, and they're very, very easy to propagate from seed.
Are they? I've actually tried to grow them and they didn't come up. I was very disappointed. So perhaps that again is important. Go to the sales, buy the plants and say, if we want to propagate these ourselves from seed, how do we do it successfully?
Yes.
Because
I've had the best luck with everlastings that I've found is using very, very fresh seed. So very often I've collected a seed head from a flower or a plant that's gone home and sown the seed, and then I'll get great germination.
Right, okay, so straight from the plant.
That's what I find with those.
Right.
However, there's different species, and some of the Western Australian ones need a period to wait. So there's no rule that applies to everything.
Right, yeah, okay. Well, our time's up. Thank you very much, Fiona, for speaking to us this morning. I hope your plant sales go well.
We'll hope for the best.
And
okay. Thanks, Hilary.
Thank you. Bye.